But, you know, one of the things when we talk about immunity here tonight, it affects us all more than we think, you know, the immune system, because of course we're going to be spending some time talking about sniffles, coughs, colds, and all that kind of stuff too. But like, let's get serious for a second more. Like the bigger issue is cancer rates going up, right? I heard a stat the other day. There are now more people that in the United States that have an autoimmune disease than have cancer and heart disease combined. 80 million people have autoimmune disease. So for Americans, that's like 1 out of every 5.
Wow.
Right? Now that's various degrees, there's many of them, but that hits home. And I know every single one of us in here have been affected probably very closely by someone with cancer. And it just gets real. I mean, literally today, I did a consult with someone who, a friend of my wife's, 33 years old, just got diagnosed with multiple myeloma. You know, so here she is now sitting here, her life is flashing before her eyes. She's got a 6 and a 3-year-old, and obviously she's fighting for her life, but all she can think about is her kids and like, you know, hopefully not having to leave her kids behind. Then I get a call about an hour ago, or an hour before I started here, 45 minutes, and a friend of mine who owns a coffee shop here in town, his wife just got diagnosed with ALS, which is like an autoimmune nerve degenerative disorder, which is really, and they basically told her she has 2 years to live now at this point, you know, and like they're called me because like we're not going to accept that. But do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, literally just happened today. Like all this stuff just landed on. I'm like, well, thank God I'm talking about this stuff, and because it's just like it gets more real, you know what I mean? And oftentimes it goes deeper, right? The rabbit hole goes deeper than we usually think about on a day-to-day basis. But my goal tonight is to completely change your perception about how sickness happens, how getting sick happens, how germs affect us, don't affect us, how cancer happens, how autoimmune disease, because I'm going to tell you, and I'm not going to go out on too much of a limb when I say this here, is that all of you have the completely wrong view about germs and sickness. I can guarantee it. And an untrue way of doing that. Partly is we've been lied to and really been misled about that, and I'll prove it tonight, okay? So I know it's a bold statement. I guess maybe it's a bold statement, but I will show how that is going to come into play here. So we're just going to get right into it. Germ theory. True or false? Do bacteria and do viruses make us sick?
It's a trick question. We want to say yes.
I don't think so.
But I know it's no.
Very good. So let's start with this, right? Who's heard of the germ theory before? I mean, maybe you don't know all the definition, but you've heard the germ theory, right? So let's start with this. Is there a difference between a theory and a law? What does a theory mean? Just in its basic form. What does it mean? A theory in its basic form mean? It's an idea that's what? Unproven. We can't fully prove it. Now, is gravity and its effects a theory or a law? It's a law, right? It's not a theory that if you jump off the building that you will go splat, okay, right? Like that is not like, it might happen, it might not happen. So the germ theory, which was developed, or I guess came up with or created by a doctor named Louis Pasteur a long time ago, right? Because he made some observations, made some correlations in what he thought were true. And essentially what happened was that then the medical system, which was of course even back then very primitive in its sense, said, oh, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. So they started focusing all of their efforts on kill the germs, because the bacteria, the blah blah, the bugs, whatever, because they make us sick. And if you remember, not too long before that, their theory on what made us sick was that we all had bad blood. And so if you were sick, what they would do is they would cut you open because they wanted the bad blood to leave, or they would put leeches on you. Or you know, if you had headaches, they might open up your skull to see if there was like a worm or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm going to prove to you that what their thoughts are on this here are just as silly and as misled as those other theories were back then. That's the thing about theories, right, is that when eventually enough information becomes available, they either become a law or they become proven. Now, if you think about with microscopes and all the technology that we have, if this theory, which was formulated back, I can't remember if it was the late 1800s, early 1900s, and our ability now with a microscope and all the testing we have, like if it was now the germ law, don't you think it would have been turned into a law by now and not still be a theory? You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, like is there really anything we don't yet get about bacteria and viruses? We can see them under microscopes and see exactly how they behave. So bugs are not the problem. If I was sick right now, maybe, who knows, right? If I had germs, which we all have germs, by the way. We have germs on our hands. Most of your hands are dirtier than the toilet seats, okay? There's more bacteria on your skin than there is in a toilet seat. But if I sneezed on you, and you happen to be sisters, by the way, so that helps to make it even a little bit more provable. If I sneezed on both of you, if germs caused sickness, then within a day or a week, both of you should be what? You should be sick. And it happens, right? You see like little kids, right? Especially because they don't know how to like control themselves. So they're at school, they're wiping boogers, they're sneezing over all the other kids' lunch tables. Is it true that somebody could sneeze in your face and you might not be sick? If they're sick, right, and then they sneeze in your face, then you might not get sick. Does that happen? Have you ever come in contact with a sick person and not gotten sick, right? Yes, of course, right? Right? But if it was a germ law and the germs, because trust me, if you sneeze, my particles will be filled all over in this room within a few seconds, right? Not just like what you can see the mist. Those things go flying airborne everywhere. So, and also, if that was the case, the bubonic plague back centuries ago wouldn't have wiped out a large percentage of Europe, but they would have wiped out all of Europe, right? The flu back in the early 1900s that did, kill worldwide, I think it was 100 million people, which is substantial. I mean, that's a massive amount of people. Think about that. But it spread every corner, pretty much of the world, and so then everybody would have died. And what's really interesting is that there was, not too much research. There's a little bit of research then because it wasn't as big as it is now, but through Palmer Chiropractic School, which is in Davenport, Iowa, it was the first chiropractic school. Their research that they did, and they kept. When people were getting adjusted during, that was called the Spanish flu, remember it kind of got spread through World War I, etc. That's for your homeschool lesson for today, is just to study the Spanish influenza of 1918, I think is what it was. Found that people that were under chiropractic care during the time had a 90% less likely chance of dying, which I thought was pretty interesting. And a lot of you that are patients have been patients for a long time, you know why that is, because it boosts your body's immune systems. So what we do know about bacteria and viruses, aka germs, is they have a preferred environment. They have an optimal environment. They have a desired environment. They have a place they like to grow and thrive in. And that is, quite simply, weakened tissue or dysfunctional tissue. So the difference is that when all those kids get sneezed upon, let's say 6 of them, and only 1 or 2 of them then become sick, it's because they, in some way, shape, or form, for various reasons, and we're going to go over some of those reasons tonight, would have a compromised immune system, and then therefore make the bacteria or the virus or whatever it is be able to replicate and grow and thrive in that environment versus otherwise. You guys tracking with me so far, right? So the whole goal here is, and to change your thinking, is that it's not about what you come into contact with. And that doesn't mean that you'd be stupid. I mean, now, granted, maybe I'm stupid, but when people are sick, I love getting hugs from them because I'm like, that's a natural form of inoculation, for me. Like, every time I come into this, I know my immune system is going to get stronger. But I focus more on how do I make myself, the host, be a inopportune or an environment that bacteria and viruses have nothing they want to do with, right? And I live a pretty regulated and pretty rigid and pretty tight life as far as how I take care of my health. And every time I do get sick, it's not that I don't get sick. I get sick, maybe once every 2 years. And usually when I go down real hard. But I can trace back to the previous weeks, the 1, 2, 4, 5, 10 things that I did that allowed my body to succumb to what was going on. And I think, before I should have really gotten into this, my hope and goal with everything that we do here with our practice, just quite simply, and I was talking with my wife about this the other day, is really just to show you how we live. Like my kid's never been to a pediatrician. My wife's 30, she'll be 32 in a few months. Never had a drug in her body, ever. Never had an antibiotic, right? Never had an aspirin, right? None of those things. She's never had to do those things because her body has been cared for and been healthy and been a strong host from the beginning, right? So, you know, we eat foods that support our body, not destroy it. We eat foods that heal, not foods that kill, right? And destroy. We make sure that we don't have toxins in our household environment. I can't control everything, but we control what we can control to make sure that we're stacking the deck, I guess, if you will, and as much in our favor as we possibly can with that. So when it comes to symptoms then, remember that your body, this is a writer-downer right here, my body is always going to do the right thing at the right time for the right reason. My body is always going to do the right thing at the right time for the right reason. If you ate 20 rotten, contaminated sushi rolls and you didn't vomit and get diarrhea, would that be a problem?
Yes.
Yeah, right? Think about it. So in those moments, if you were to eat something, food poisoning, right? Like your body was not trying to eliminate whatever it is as quickly as possible. Do you realize like people have died from that? There's people that when they die of E. coli, for example, a common food contaminant. I mean, it's not that common, but that's the most common one. It's because usually they start getting those GI symptoms and they will suppress them, right? They'll take an anti-diarrhea medication or maybe some type of thing, and they'll suppress their body from being able to eliminate. And then of course E. coli is going to grow, but otherwise your body's like, hey, E. coli shouldn't be here, flush it, right? Or when you breathe something in that shouldn't belong in there, naturally they should do what? You prove my point. Sneeze, right? Get it out, right? So all of these things, fevers, coughs, sniffles, diarrhea, it's your body doing the right thing at the right time for the right reason. The symptom is part of the cure, okay? That's another writer-downer. The symptom is part of my cure. And I'm not going to go into cancer too much tonight, because that could be a whole separate talk. I debated doing that, but that would have added another hour, and like we just all eyes would have glazed over. But we've now even found out that cancer is an adaptive mechanism. So it's actually, when you have cancer cells growing inside of your body, it is your body responding appropriately. Now, it's not a desired response, but it's actually responding the best that it can based on the situation of the environment inside of your body. And I got textbooks after textbooks after textbooks that show the research that backs this up. So rotten sushi. So, or think about too, if you did come in contact with the flu virus or a bacteria, and you didn't get a fever, right? How long likely is that bacteria or virus going to be able to grow and thrive inside of your body? Indefinitely, potentially, right? Indefinitely. So the symptoms are a healthier response. Mucus drainage, coughing, all that is, it's eliminating, getting things out of your lungs, right? I mean, think about it. Like, do you really think bacteria, a little bug, would have the power to override and tell your lungs what to do and to actually make you cough? You know what I'm saying, right? Do you think they have that kind of power over you? No, I mean, it says in the Bible that man has power over every other living creature. So I don't think bacteria and viruses are, that's kind of a joke a little bit, but like they don't have that power over us. It's your body responding to that, doing the right thing, get it out of me. And so then now this begs into the question, if you think about everything that the medical system does, and I'm not bashing them, but what do they do to symptoms? Suppress them, right? And they, I mean, not cover them up, yes, but literally it's to suppress them. So what do you're coughing, I don't like this cough, or the doctor's like, I don't like that cough, so they give you cough suppressant, right? Or, oh, my child has a fever, or I have a fever, so what should we do? We're going to take an antipyretic or Motrin, right? Something to lower down the fever. Or I have mucus, I have nasal congestion, or mucus in my lungs, so I'm going to get Mucinex or a decongestant, right? And so when you see that fundamentally at its core, it's completely off basis, right? Now, I'm not saying there's not a time and a place for certain medications, but you see fundamentally at its core, it's suppressing your body's efforts to try to heal itself. And you're prolonging the process, and actually research does show that by taking any of those over-the-counters particularly actually prolong the length of illness and time. Now you may feel better, okay, but it prolongs the length of injury inside of your body, or the problem inside of your body. So let's break down fevers here for a second, because I think this is one of the biggest ones and most important to understand, okay? So let's go back to biology class for a second here, okay? For the most part, agreed upon, normal body temperature is what? 98.6. Good, all right. 98.6 is good. You guys paid attention somewhat, that's cool, right? Now, I mean, some people run a little bit warmer than that, naturally, like maybe 98.8 or 98.4, but, you know, for the most part, the majority of people stick right around 98.6 degrees, okay? So, now let's talk about what happens into a fever. So we have 98.6, okay, right here, that's the baseline. If you have colder body temperature, that's a different problem, means you probably have a thyroid problem, okay? But for the most part, otherwise, people are gonna be going up versus down. Now, so your body starts having a fever, so temperature starts going up, right? An interesting thing is that according to what we know about microbiology, not we, I mean just microbiologists, what they know, I did pass that class in school, but man, it was miserable, okay? I'm like, why do I have to know this as a chiropractor? It makes zero sense. There are minimal species of bacteria that can physically exist in an environment above 102 degrees. Bacteria. So meaning that the vast, I mean, I can't think off the top of my head or any ones that above 102, okay, that bacteria can survive or at least proliferate, meaning grow and spread above 102 degrees, all right? Now for viruses, they're a little bit more hardy in that sense. So viruses are kind of around 103 to 104, with most of them being around 103. So let's break this down a little bit. And listen, I'm kind of rounding this a little bit. I mean, there's kind of more precise numbers, but you're kind of getting it. So let's talk about this here then. So if you have a low-grade fever, right? So you're somewhere in this range right here, and your body never goes beyond that 102 or up to that 103 marker. What is your body likely trying to fight off? Bacteria. Yes, right? Or of course, if you get up in the 103 range, well, then you know you're maybe in for a little bit more of a fight than your viruses. But as parents, you know, as just individuals ourselves, and part of it comes is like, I mean, what I knew about a fever before I really knew what a fever was to lower it, because I was just like, well, whenever I was sick as a youngster, right, it's like, well, I have a fever, so my parents would do something to lower it. Like, it's just like, it was kind of like ingrained in me because my parents were ingrained by their parents probably, and just like passes generationally down. But if we think about it for a second, let's go back to, is your body smart or dumb? Smart. Very smart. So if it recognizes, hey, there's an overgrowth of bacteria that should not be here, so I'm going to raise up this temperature to kill those suckers, right? Yeah, and you know what? When you're turning a furnace on the inside of your body, right, it is going to shut down other processes that are not necessary, like maybe having crazy amounts of energy. So when you feel tired, lethargic, you want to sleep, it might shut down your digestive tract more. It's converting energy, all available resources, to go and blast those suckers. So let's say your body's like, get it smart, it's like, I want the temperature to be right here, because I know whatever this is, it could be strep, right, E. coli, whatever it is gonna die. But, oh, I don't like the way that I feel. That was what most people sound like when they're sick, by the way. I can verify that from my own experience, too. So what do? We go and take something. I had to lower my fever. Okay, you had to, sure. So you lower the fever down. And does a medication, especially a medication specifically designed to lower fever, does that do it like really gradually, or does it do it pretty quick? Antipyretics, fever medication. Does it go down really, 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 really slow, like over the course of a day when it goes effect, or is it like within an hour, maybe 2 hours, right? If it works, it goes down quick. Whereas your body has probably been cranking up from 98.6 up to its temperature for at least a day, if not longer. It usually it just slowly kind of cooks it up, because it's less energy to cook it up slowly. So remember, your set point, think of like a thermostat, right? The set point is your body wants it right here. Now when you take that Motrin or you take that medication, whatever it is, does that last in your body for an extremely long amount of time or not very long?
Yeah.
It's like maybe a couple hours, 6 hours maybe at the most. So let's say the medication now wears off, all right, but your body temperature is back down here. But obviously by lowering the fever, it's going to do nothing to have killed off or given your body enough resources to kill this off. So the body's internal hypothalamus, which is the temperature control regulation center of the brain, has a set point, right, of 102.5, let's just say. So the minute that medication starts wearing off, guess what's going to happen to that temperature? Boom, it's going to go up fast because it thought that it was already supposed to be up there. So it's going to, all the body systems are funneled towards making that temperature be the right temperature. So now we're talking about a fever spike, right? So when we talk about the quote-unquote dangers of fevers that we always get scared into, like, oh, if your fever is too high, your brain's gonna melt or something, you know, whatever they say, it's all this hogwash. When people have seizures, when they have brain damage from fevers, first and foremost, it usually happens up here, like we're talking 107. Even most hospitals, if you look on their websites and all the research that I've ever read, is that you can be at 106 and you are just fine. Even your kids, 106, just fine. Now, do they look pitiful, miserable, and downright like zombified at this point? Yes, I've seen it. I mean, they're like limp and lethargic, and because the only thing that body wants to be doing is resting and healing at that point, right? So of course they're gonna have no other, they're not gonna wanna eat, they're not gonna wanna do anything, because I mean, if you're at 106, you are probably killing the bubonic plague off, you know what I'm saying, right? Or whatever it might be, okay? So, but that's where that happens, is that when it goes from a normal temperature back up to that high temperature is where you get the febrile spike. Sorry, my handwriting's terrible. Or the febrile seizures is because it shoots up. And it basically overwhelms the brain and that body because the temperature control system gets messed up. So that's where the danger comes from, is from post-medication spikes is where that is. That's where all the data is on fever being dangerous, is that it's when fever goes up too fast. Now, let's talk about this here too. So let's say, okay, I've convinced you no more Motrin. So the next question is, should you take a cold bath? You didn't think you were going to have to think tonight, did you? So I'm going to sit back and take notes.
Well, it still lowers the temperature, the body temperature.
Yeah. It's natural, right? It's not a medication, but you're still forcing the body in a direction, right, that it shouldn't be going. Does that make sense? Okay? Or, and I always get cautious and nervous because you have a lot of people making, like I see it a lot now, and it's increasing. Not all of it's bad, but I see a lot more people like giving kind of medical advice online, like they're like essential oils, like, oh, if you have a fever, put some peppermint oil on because it'll draw the fever away from the hot areas. I'm like, well, you're still trying to manipulate the body. And I have nothing wrong with essential oils as long as they're used appropriately, but you see what I mean? Like even a natural thing that, for all intents and purposes, is all very, very well and good, and I use them and lots of, and that's not the only one, but, or a cold bath, or say, or even like, you know, the other thing was like, oh, you want to heat them up, so you put a blanket on them. I mean, if anything, that'd be a safer thing to do because you might be able to get them up a little bit faster. But the point is, don't mess with the body what it's trying to do, ever, with anything, right? Just let it do its thing. It will do its thing, and it will not fail you and let you down, provided we're talking about a healthy situation. So that then brings the next question is, well, how do I know if it's a healthy response going on? Well, you know it's a healthy response going on if you are doing the right things that we're going to get into tonight, okay? And others. So fever is good for you. Same thing, coughing is good for you. Getting rid of that stuff. If you suppress it and leave it in there, is it more likely to grow and thrive and be happy? You know what I'm saying, right? I know it's common sense, but you have to think about the next time your instinct is to reach for something to do that, it's like, wait a minute, what is my body doing? You should literally be talking to yourself. What is my body doing right now? Why is it doing it? And do I want my body to win or lose, okay? And you probably want it to win. Decongestant, so you think about congestion, a lot of people think it's like actual like mucus buildup that's doing that. The primary cause for congestion is actually inflamed blood vessels, okay? That's the primary, where the sinus cavities will swell shut. It's not that mucus is per se blocking it, that's the full blockage through there. And so again, then the root cause would be, well, the question to be asking is, well, why am I inflamed right now? What is causing this inflammation to be happening? Or is my body been doing the right thing at the right time? For the reason, in that sense, it's creating inflammation. It might be increasing blood flow to try to kill something off that's in my brain or up in my sinus cavities. Again, ask the right questions. Don't just react the way that society wants you to react with that. Mental factor. This is huge. I know for me, the number one reason why I get sick is stress. Is when I'm stressed and I'm not having like a release valve and an outlet valve. And I mean, think about it. In your life, were you more likely to get sick during times when everything was going well or when things are not going so well, right? Because it's like your body gets beat down, and there are literally biochemical reasons for that. Number one is that when you're stressed, you increase cortisol in your blood. Cortisol has a direct impact and it negatively drives down your immune system. So basically, as the cortisol goes up, the effectiveness of your immune system goes down. Because it's kind of simplified, it comes down to availability of resources, okay? So in a study that was done on mice that had cancer, they found that when they increased stress in the mice, they were 30% more likely for their cancer to metastasize than mice that were not under abnormal stress, which is crazy. Because living in America, living on planet Earth, but especially living in here in the U.S., do we have more or less stress than other countries? I mean, like if it was like poured in a jug, we'd all have like 10 gallons filled of stress juice, and every other country in the world would have like a few cups. You know what I mean? And we're even talking about places that would have less basic needs than we obviously all have met our basic needs here. But stress is just crazy out of control. So, well, what does that mean? I can't control my stress. No, you're right. I mean, maybe not all of it, but you have no idea how many people I work with. You have self-inflicted stress. You put yourself in environments and in conversations that increase your stress, and the goal is to at least try to prune those things out of your life, right? It's like if every time you talk to so-and-so friend, your stress level goes up, well, maybe you should have less conversations with that friend, right? You know what I mean? Or refer them to a counselor because they're at least trained to be able to, kind of, you guys get what I'm saying? I know it's just a funny example, but, or it's like, okay, if every day and time I'm stressed in this moment, it's like, okay, was there a different way that I could approach that and get around it, right? But if you never ask those questions, well, then you're going to always be in the same stressful environment, boom, 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 and your bodies just get hammered down and getting destroyed from that. Yeah. So when it comes to nutrition, the most important thing is there's 2, maybe 3 things that we do. Number one is the gut. So let's have a little quiz question here. So for your immune system, what percentage of your immune system is controlled by your gut? Price is right.
What percentage?
What percentage? 80? Okay. Any other guesses? 90? You guys are pretty good.
I think it'd be pretty high.
Yeah, it's 80% actually.
Ooh, yeah.
Spot on.
I just want to see if anybody said like 10, But so here's the point, right? We're so focused on the immune system, which is good, it should be. But we have to think about, well, what's controlling the immune system? Well, if 80% of it is driven by the health of your gut, well then if you want to have a stronger immune system, where's the place you should be looking to improve, right? You're going to get more bang for your buck. If you could get an 80% return on a certain stock in the stock market, you'll be putting your money, every penny you had in that right there. But the reality is that, so that's what I'm talking about, like as far as resources for investing in improving your immune system health, you put it in your gut, not in other areas right there. You start, or at least you start making sure you're doing as much as you can with that. So let's talk about what destroys the gut then. So what would compromise the gut and the immune system? So, sugar, very good.
Grains.
Yep, along with that, grains for sure. Toxins.
Junk food?
You got it, yep, that goes in with there. Put JF up there. Very good.
Water or lack of.
Okay, not specifically, but probably to some degree. I'm kind of hitting the big ones here.
Medication.
Antibiotics and NSAIDs. aspirin, Tylenol, ibuprofen, things like that. Antibiotics wipe out your gut flora. In fact, recent research came out about 2 years ago that found that with even just one round of an antibiotic, right? So what is that, 5 to 7 days? I haven't had it for so long, I don't even remember. On average, 5, 7 days, right? It can take, 10 at the most, it can take an entire year, 1 year, for your gut flora before the antibiotic to be caught up to back to where it was. An entire year.
Wow.
But not, well, even with that. Yep, because it just wipes it clean. Remember, what does that stand for? What does that mean? Against. Biology is the study of life, right? So if you're anti-life or against life,
Take anti.
not a smart idea, right? They literally built, it's like, they just must be like, let's just mess with them, you know what I mean? Like, we're just gonna mess with them, but like, this is literally what it stands for. It's crazy. And are they targeted? Like, when you take an antibiotic, does it only kill the bad bacteria? They're not selective. They just, it's like napalm, right? Just whatever's there is toast, okay? NSAIDs, what they do is they poke little tiny holes, microscopic sized holes in your gut lining, okay? That's what they do. So that's why, if you take too many of them, right, you can get an ulcer, right? Or they have like leaky gut or cause internal bleeding, is because it pokes holes in those blood vessels inside of your digestive tract right there.
Would allergy meds affect that as well?
Not in the same way, no, but the main thing for those is they're literally just turning your immune system down, if you think about it. And they're also not selective.
And that's nasal, that's...
All of it,
all
yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, those allergy shots are some of the worst things. Again, they're not selective. They're just down regulating your immune system, so it's just shutting your immune system down, which is going to make it harder for your body to fight things that it needs to be fighting, right? Cripples it, handicaps it. So sugars, grains, toxins, antibiotics. Further down, and this is more on a case-by-case basis, all right, because this is not for everybody. It would be case-by-case, but it'd be things like some people's too much caffeine can do it. For some people, dairy, their body really poorly will respond gut-wise, and really it goes along with food sensitivities. So certain food sensitivities can also cause gut damage. So basically you're putting foods in your body that's reacting, having an inflammatory reaction to, that inflammation on the gut level, right there in the cell level, causes damage for that too. So, are there more than that? Yes, these are the heavy hitters right here. These are by far the heavy hitters. And actually, you know what, there's one other heavy hitter, but it goes along with this. It's glyphosate. Roundup, right? Everybody heard of the study of Monsanto, the lawsuit, that just came out? Dude got awarded $160 million because they found out that spraying, he spent his whole career spraying Roundup. The court agreed that his terminal cancer was caused by spraying Roundup on crops. Yeah, and this is in almost every single food supply, every single thing that we eat. And they found that it literally just right through the gut, just like snips it like a razor blade. So that's really the main reason why grains are up here, is because of the glyphosate connection. Grains are really inflammatory, especially modern grains, which are the ones that we have in our food supply. Ancient grains, not as much, but glyphosate is one of the big part with grains, but grains are problematic in and of themselves right there too. So when you damage that gut, you're crippling your immune system like crazy. So just have to be aware of this stuff and figure out, okay, how can I be improving what I'm doing? So, quite simply, how do you avoid this, kind of this a little bit here too as well? The Max Living Nutrition Plans covers it all. Sugar. You knew that would come up. Next pop quiz question. How many hours after consuming sugar will it depress your immune system?
4.
Very good.
I've seen your video.
Yes. Paid attention. 4 hours. Think about this, right? When, what's a common thing to do, especially with kids, adults do it too. When you're sick, what's a well-intentioned thing that people will drink?
Orange juice.
Yes, right, orange juice in order to get your vitamin C, right? which there's so little, I mean, it's great, it's fine, but there's so little vitamin C in orange, I mean, it's not even funny, okay?
And orange.
But there's a whole heck of a lot of what in orange juice. Oh my gosh, there's like 40 grams of fructose in like one glass. I mean, look at it, it's insane, right? So it's like, I'm sick, you chug a thing of that, right? The teeny little bit of vitamin C brings your immune system up that, but then the sugar just brings it to the toilet, right? And then it's like, oh come on, when you feel bad, are you more or less likely to eat something that's really good for you, or you're just like, whatever, right? Come on, we've all been there. You're not reaching for like the broccoli and the kale when you feel like crap. You want like pizza and the fast food. Come on, we've all been there, right? So you see what I mean? It's like we're just further pummeling our body into submission for like getting healthy and whole and over that really quickly, because it shuts down your immune system. The other thing is that sugar also, unfortunately, feeds what? Yes. So, do I have it here? Yes. This is the PET scan of the patient who came in this afternoon that had multiple myeloma. So look at this. So this is PET scan whole body, what they're looking for. Following an IV injection of 2,18F floral 2-deoxy-D-glucose. Yeah. Now, here's the question. Why do they inject you with glucose for a PET scan?
Cancer cells.
Find out where the cancer is.
Because it's going to increase. So a PET scan works by cellular activity. And so think about like, again, we've all been there, poured gasoline on a fire to watch how cool it goes like that. That's what they know metabolically will happen with cancer cells when it comes in contact with sugar. Because a cancer cell, all right, has 4 times the amount of cell receptors on it than a normal cell. Remember, all cells need sugar. I mean, sugar is one basic form of energy. There's broccoli eventually converts into some glucose. Okay, so I'm not, it's not about that. So they have 4 times the amount of receptor sites for glucose than a normal cell. Okay, for sugar. So what happens is these guys are starving Marvins right here in terms of sugar because they absolutely need it to continue to replicate, right, reproduce itself, and because cancer also grows extrememily quickly, right? Like think about growing boys, right? Do they eat more or less food than like adults in general, right? They eat way more, right? Because they're trying to grow So cancer cells, because of how fast their metabolism essentially is, they need that hit all the time in order to keep going with that. So we're feeding it with sugar, and they do it by increasing the activity. So then you get a PET scan done, and it's like if this is the liver, if it's in the liver, and if the cancer's in the liver is going to light up like a Christmas tree on that PET scan, because those cancer cells are going to be happy and they're going to be eating, munching, and metabolizing, right? So sugar, so I posted something on Facebook today, and some people took it the wrong way, but it was really just a question. So the question is, do oncologists know that sugar causes or feeds cancer? Not causes, but feeds cancer. They know that it does. Heck yeah, they do, because otherwise why would they be injecting people to figure out where, if they have it, right? Now, like somebody on there said, the disconnect though is so they know that it does that, but the disconnect happens when they're not educating people on the dietary effects of having sugar on a regular basis, most likely every single day. So hold on a second. So they know, right? It's not like this is a secret. I'm not going over information that is like, ooh, you now know only what like 10 people in the whole world do. It's like every oncologist has a basic understanding of this, but when you know people, whether it was yourself or someone that close to you that went through cancer, how many of them were given even basic advice on how to avoid or change those things? I hear people...
They're told to cook the hell out of their food because they're worried they're going to get...
Too many nutrients, yeah. No, I know what you're saying.
Another thing too was they tried to put weight on their body and tell them to eat whatever you could put in.
Calories, yeah. Because they're going to lose weight with chemo, and all that, and radiation, so...
And that's what I was going to say. My uncle has it, and like some of the foods they were suggesting were like ice cream.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, and you see how, or you go to oncology centers and like they have bowls of candy, right? Like there, not for like the workers, it's like out for the people. And it's just, Or, I mean, gosh, even it makes my stomach churn, and it's not any ill against the person that's gone through this, but especially with like kids, you've all seen the videos online, like they finish their chemo treatment, right? And like, what do they get served? Like literally in the clinic then? Yeah, like a cake. Like it's like, oh, you congratulations, your cancer treatment's over, like here's a cake. And it's just like, oh, like, it just hurts because they're just so lied to, you know what I mean? They're so misled about what they really need to be doing for their bodies, right? Again, I'm not saying there's a time and a place for all medical treatments and procedures, but it's like, man, if you're gonna do chemotherapy, like you should at least be doing the right things nutritionally too. That's the most important time of anything else for that. So that's the biggest, my opinion, the biggest, so like, I mean, I have a hard time, I'm actually trying to gain weight, and don't hate me, I'm just saying like, I don't eat a low sugar diet to like lose weight. I eat a low sugar diet so I don't gotta get one of these things done, right? And that I can be as healthy as possible and to keep my immune system as strong as it is. That's why I eat the way that I do. It's not for appearances, it's not for any of that, it's for health. That's why I eat the way that I eat. And it becomes a lot easier to eat for health than it is to eat for a certain appearance anyways. So here are some just quick hitters, boom, 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 that we're gonna be able to do for improving your health right now. So eating foods that are very beneficial for your gut and help to actually detoxify you. Now, as you can see on here, these are all cruciferous vegetables, I think, if I did my Google images right for that. I know there's a couple on there. Cruciferous vegetables like cauliflower, bok choy, broccoli, okay, garlic, what would be some other ones?
Does it matter how it's cooked?
Well, so raw is best. So the reason why cruciferous vegetables in particular is that they have, cruciferous vegetables have high amounts of a component called sulfur. And sulfur is one of the primary building blocks for your body to make glutathione. Okay? So these are very sulfur rich, that's the technical term, sulfur rich foods. So essentially the more you eat of them, the more your body will produce glutathione. And glutathione is one of the body's top internal substance, top antioxidant. So it literally neutralizes toxins. In fact, when glutathione comes into contact with a toxin, it'll actually literally turn it into water, which is pretty cool if you think about that. So it turns like waste, toxins into water. That's what it does. So eating foods that are very high. So now, does that mean cooked have no value at all? No, I'm not saying that, but raw is better. So, it's really good to eat a serving or two. Steam has less still with that, but so raw by far has the most potent amount. So the point is, yeah, I mean, I have steamed, I have roasted broccoli and vegetables, all the time. I mean, in fact, probably once a day I have a roasted, like, cruciferous vegetable. But, it's working on continually getting those, like, raw versions in a couple times a week, ideally even daily. So great with, like, a hummus snack, or making your own ranch dressing, you know what I mean? Dipping those raw vegetables and eating that way. Or throwing in a smoothie if you're really, a health nut, I guess, with that. So cruciferous vegetables, huge for that. Also other gut building things would be things like sauerkraut, like fermented foods, okay? Very, very, very gut beneficial. So for example, in like a serving of sauerkraut, many studies have shown that there's like 1 trillion servings of bacteria in that, of good bacteria. So the terminology for a probiotic, right, or a bacteria count is called CFU. Don't know what it stands for. A good supplement, will have 100 billion. Like a really high-end probiotic whole food supplement, you'll see counts of 100 billion CFU. Well, like one serving of sauerkraut, you're gonna get 1 trillion usually on average, which is 10 times, 10x the highest quality serving. And like a bite of sauerkraut, pennies, pennies, and you can make it actually yourself. It's really easy to make fermented food. So anything that is a fermented food is going to be very rich in probiotics. So fermented dairy like kefir or amasi, kimchi, a lot of the Korean, like Asian foods, sauerkraut, what other ones? Pickles are fermented, so pickles are very, good to eat with that. Pickled beets, anything pickled, fermented, all that stuff. Again, do I have to have it every day? No, but if there's a way for you to get because even you could just eat a bite of sauerkraut every day. If you're doing a probiotic supplement, and putting that in some water every day, like why not just take a bite of sauerkraut and save yourself a bunch of money, you know?
What about apple cider vinegar?
Yeah, great too. Yeah, great. It's not as much content as this right there, but it definitely helps to nourish and flourish the gut's healthy bacteria. Another thing that we're now learning a lot more about, instead of just probiotics, there's prebiotics. So there are certain foods that are very rich in prebiotics, which are the food for the probiotics, essentially, right? So it's like feeding the bacteria. So probiotics are actually bacteria being dropped in. Prebiotics are going to be the food that feeds the bacteria, okay? So I know that a lot of them are kind of some weird foods, but like Jewish artichoke are really high. Green banana flour, plantains are really high in prebiotics. Inulin is another thing that's a really good prebiotic. Chicory root, okay? So some of those things are a lot easier to do in supplement form, but I just want to put on your radar prebiotics, okay? Just have that on your radar.
Those things like those kefir drinks, I might have missed that. You might have said something about that.
Yeah, fermented, yep.
Yeah. So
Kombucha.
Are those, even if they have sugar in it?
Yeah, so for me, like that's like my version of a healthy treat.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's benefits, but you're right. If you're like I'm gonna drink that every day, like for me that's too much sugar to have one every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if it had no sugar, it should taste like vinegar.
Right.
Right. So no, seriously. But I'm just, you know what I'm saying, though? So like there's benefits to it, but like that's not something that I would be like an everyday thing. And not only that, they're really expensive. But you can make your own, so that's maybe a better way to do it.
Well, when you're talking about sugar, are you talking about processed sugar?
No, everything that turns into sugar. Yes. Yeah.
Bread.
Natural sugar is included. They don't, when they all boil down to the simplest molecules, no matter where they came from, they all turn to the same thing at the end of the day. Now, when we talk about natural sugars, there's benefits in honey that are good for you. So again, something like, for me to have a little bit of honey here and there, I'm not beating up, but it's not like a staple in my diet, if you will. So that's a great question, distinction. So you don't eat a zero sugar diet, but the goal is to have a minimal sugar, if that makes
So
sense.
if you're
okay?
eating like fruit daily, you probably shouldn't.
Correct, yeah. I mean, there's some that are lower, like berries are a lot lower in fruit sugar.
So what about fruits that you might need when you have a growing child?
Yeah, that's not true, because what if you 100 years ago would have lived in a place where those things didn't exist? So like,
What kind of things would you not?
I would, my wife, she did the core plan, Max Living core plan.
Like a banana has the highest amount of sugar.
Right.
But it also has other things in it, right?
Yeah.
Would you recommend you don't eat that?
Not too many. I mean, unless you
Just
want to
every now
gain
and
a lot
then.
of weight during your pregnancy, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, so, I mean, is a banana better than having like a McDonald's hamburger when you're trying to grow a human? Of course, right?
Yeah.
So you're still using common sense and like, this is better, but no, I mean, my wife still tried to the best of her ability to stick as close to what we normally did. I mean, it's somewhat harder, you know what I mean, going through that, but you gotta listen to your body mainly, but don't listen to the bad things, of course, right? Yeah. So vitamin D, huge, okay? Huge. I don't think there's been any vitamin that we know about that's been more studied at this point than vitamin D by a long shot. I mean, to my knowledge, there's about 5,000 medical studies that have been done on the benefits of vitamin D. I mean, I feel like there's a couple that come out every single day. Now, of course, vitamin D is the sunshine vitamin, right? And our body does make it. But you know what's interesting? I learned this actually. Well, I forgot this. I was remembered by it as I was researching this. It requires cholesterol in order to synthesize vitamin D when sun hits your skin. What's the #1 prescribed drug in America?
Anti-cholesterol.
Yeah, like statin medications, right? So literally by wiping the cholesterol out of your body like that, you're limiting your body's ability to produce its own vitamin D. Interesting.
And there's a medication for that.
Oh yeah. Every study, okay, and I'm going to summarize 5,000 studies here. one horribly written graph.
Do you have to have cholesterol to process vitamin D in a supplement form?
No, you just need to have it in your body. It's
Okay.
in your body, yeah. That study that has been done shown that the more vitamin D that you have in your blood, it's darn near linear like that as far as your immunity and the health of your immune system. Almost every single one. That's
So
it
when
right
would
there.
you get too much? Like
What's that?
5,000? Like what would be considered too much?
For me, I took 20,000 for like a year,
Wow.
and I had a high level when I did that.
Yes, so.
20,000, how often?
A day.
Yeah.
But I made a boo-boo and I didn't follow my own rules and I forgot to test when I normally tested because I would have caught it long before that it got really high. Now I'm back in a normal range. So I decided to cut back for like 3 months.
So what is your normal that you take?
I do between 5 and 10.
A day?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll start ramping it up a little bit now that it's getting the winter, less sun, so I'll probably be closer to 10,000 during the winter months and more like 3,000 to 5,000 in the summer months. But I average between 5 and 10.
So what is your normal, what do you define as?
My target is between 70 and 80, and that's a nanogram per mole in your, that's the level. I try to stay in that range. The problem is, your doctor is happy if you're at least above 30. So you have a normal level. You could be 32, and he'll say you have a normal level of vitamin D. Do you know why they pick 30 as the cutoff? I mean,
Complications below 30.
what's that?
Are there complications
Well,
below 30?
what disease specifically? Remember this? You got rickets, exactly. So they know if you're below 30, your chance of developing rickets or soft bones is way higher. So, but they know as long as you're above 30, your chance of getting rickets is 0. So that's their only benchmark. Well, excuse me, doctors, health industry, whatever. Every study that has been done that has been correlated to blood levels and like saying, sure, you need to be 60 or higher if you want to reduce your risk of cancer. So like, it makes 0 sense to me why they don't just, I mean, if they, fine, let's compromise and shift the darn number up to like 45 or something like that. I mean, literally they found if you're a woman and your number is above 60, your chance of getting breast cancer is 67% lower. So 1 out of 8 women get diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime. So I mean, that would just wipe it out. I mean, that would slash it so crazily. And vitamin D is like so cheap. I mean, you're talking a few pennies a day to take the right amount for that. You know, it's just blah. It's just so
What is the
annoying.
right amount to keep it above 60?
Well, it's different for everybody. That's why testing is so important. Yeah, that's why. I mean, I test every 3 to 6 months if I'm on it and tracking. Because it's so cheap. I mean, you can do it for like $40. You know, it's like, it's such an, I mean, because there's been times I was like, oh, I wasn't, you know, that's how everybody's a little bit different. So, because you might get a little bit more in your diet or a little bit less, depending upon what you're eating, when you're eating with that. When you're pregnant, you should be doing more, because guess who's sucking vitamin D out of you? The baby, right? Because they want it more than anything. So, because they need it. It's that vital. So the answer is I don't know, but 5 to 10,000 is safe for, I would say, 80 to 90% of people on a daily basis.
Are you talking about, I'm sorry, but are you talking about milligrams?
No, IUs. 1,000 K for 1,000 IUs is what the. Thank you. That's good.
And how much was in one dropper? Is it 4?
1,000.
Well, it depends on the supplement. The one we have is 2. One drop is 2,000.
Is it?
Because I was taking 2 to 3 and mine was like 140.
Yeah, so that's another problem. That means you're having a hard time absorbing. That's another issue. So email me that blood work because I got to see what's going on with that. That's rare. Yeah. You're talking drops, not dropper fulls, right?
Right.
Okay, good. Yeah, just making sure because I was definitely bringing up to 140 and beyond. So 5 to 10,000 is safe for most people. But again, like this should be tested, I'd say every 3 to 6 months minimum. Usually you can do it with an at-home finger prick test. That's how I just do it. 'Cause, why go to a doctor and waste that time to have them tell me something that I know more about? Vitamin D. This is just one easy graph. It shows how this affects. This modulates all your immune system. I mean, not every single component of it, but major components of your immune system. It literally activates it. So vitamin D specifically works in your immune system by making your defense mechanisms, your systems, more active. Okay, so essentially it makes them more alert, smarter. It doesn't increase the number. Things like vitamin C will increase your amount of, and elderberry will increase your amount of immune system cells. Vitamin D increases the effectiveness of what you have. That's why like part of my protocol for immune system is both things that increase it and more things that make it more active and alert. So I mean, I could go on and on. I could do a whole seminar on vitamin D. So we have the capsule one and we have the liquid one. So yeah, I mean, they're both good in their own ways. Like this one does have probiotics in it in and of itself. The liquid one is a lot better for high dosing or families who are, if you're all doing several drops a day, it's a lot more bang for your buck that way. Here are my other, so that's this one here, that liquid hypo emulsi D, so 1 drop in there is 2,000 IUs. I give it to my kids, I give a drop to my kids every day. So they do a little bit less, 2,000 is what I give to them. Vitamin C, which I just talked about, but that increases the number of your, is we're trying to increase the number of things like white blood cells and macrophages and whatnot. Who's heard of elderberry before? Yeah, and a lot of people have. I'd heard it, but I never really looked into it because I'm like, oh, I saw these people online making elderberry syrup. I'm like, I'm never gonna make my own elderberry syrup. I will blow the kitchen up. But my friend Josh, his company, they worked with some scientists and some nutritionists, supplement people to essentially take elderberry syrup, dehydrate it down to a powder, and you can take it in a capsule form. The big thing with elderberry syrup too, I mean, obviously it's got a ton of good things, and it's been around for a long time, longer than me and longer than all of us here. But it's still elderberry syrup, so it's still a syrup, and it's a berry. So anything berry and syrup is gonna definitely be higher sugar. So I can't say for sure the exact sugar content in that elderberry syrup, but for me, if I get with the dehydrated version, it's not going to have that sugar content because it's going to dehydrate a lot of the milk, essentially get it out of there. Then you're kind of getting the benefit without having any potential negative. But I don't want to say that there's for sure any, I don't know, but I like it. And the fermented is pretty cool because then it's more bioavailable. This probiotic is the only one I carry because it has soil-based probiotics. So it's meaning it's bacteria that you can only find in the soil. So I'm assuming all of you probably wash your vegetables, even if you eat organic vegetables. So think about that. You're washing off all of the healthy probiotics that are contained in the soil. So again, my friend Josh Axe, a lot of you probably heard of him. He wrote a book called Just Eat Dirt pretty recently, and that was because we're now finding the consequences of washing things like our vegetables as thoroughly as we do, because you're eliminating all the healthy things that are in the soil, which is what grew the darn fruit or vegetable in the first place, right? And nourished it, right? So that's why this is the only one I carry, because otherwise you can get probiotics from organic yogurt and, like I said, from other fermented foods, but you're not going to get soil-based organisms from any of those food-based. Does that make sense? Okay. So, or just stop washing your vegetables as thoroughly as you do. Maybe, I don't know, give a quick rinse, but that's all the good stuff, so.
I have a question regarding probiotics. I was, and maybe I didn't hear this from you, but I thought that it was you that said that they should be live.
Yeah, ideally. I mean, if they're in there, they should be live. Yeah.
Okay. And so.
Because Dad is not going to do anything.
If those are capsules and they're sitting out on a shelf, then they're not live?
No, no, they're live. They can be live still. Yeah. They have a shelf life, but they're live. Yep. And that one is 50 billion, so that's a pretty good amount from that. Now with probiotics, it's fine to take probiotics. I'm not against them at all. But one important thing to do is make sure you're rotating your brands. Okay? So you know how you look on the back and it's got all those organisms that you can't pronounce, right? Like lactobacillus, bacillus subtilis, what's the other name? Anyways, but if you're always taking the same supplement with the same species, you potentially can create an overgrowth of good bacteria, which will actually suppress other good bacteria. There's only so much food to go around if you think about inside of your GI tract, okay? So you want to make sure you're getting different species if you're going to take a probiotic supplement, which is fine, but make sure you're not just doing only the same one. So make sure you're getting different species with that. And real quick on bacteria, there are 10 trillion bugs, bacteria living inside of you right now. Yeah.
Trillion or billion?
Trillion, sorry. You have 1 trillion cells, human cells. So you are literally more bacteria than you are human, based on math. And that again goes back to what we talked about in the beginning, is you have to think differently about sickness and illness, is that if there are trillions of bacteria living in, hopefully, harmony inside of us, then why would a few germs that land on our tongue or in our nose or something like that all of a sudden be the end-all be-all of us being sick and dropping over, or dead of pneumonia or something like that, okay? Kids line, all the kids line supports the immune system. That's one of the most important things to build as a child. So we got the probiotics, the multivitamin, the detox powder, the omega-3, which has vitamin D in it as well, vitamin A, okay, things like that. So remember, when's the best time to build your immune system? Before you really need it, right? Ideally, right? So, I mean, you know what I'm saying. So kids, most important time is to build it, yeah. So.
What I think is interesting is that everything you said about the gut and sugar and probiotics, how they put sugar all over the probiotic gummies.
Oh yeah, don't get me started. I want to move on because we got a little bit more to cover yet here before we go on. So, quickly on cancer. Cancer cannot survive in a highly oxygenated environment, okay? So cancer loves what's called hypoxic environment. Hypo meaning low, right? Oxic meaning oxygen. So low oxygen environment. Cancer thrives in that because they do not grow on a process called respiration, right? Think of us breathing. There's cellular respiration too. They don't grow and thrive the same way as a normal human. Now, normal human cells do it through respiration, okay? But they are anaerobic. Oh gosh, I didn't think I was going to spell as much. Anaerobic, okay? Cancer, not all of them, but the majority of them are. So, what's the number one way to increase the oxygen inside of your body? Yes. Breathe heavily, okay? Exercise, exercise, exercise. Think about it. I mean, do you think there's ever been a study that came out that exercising increased your risk of cancer?
No.
Right, I mean, every single one has been shown that at various, whatever cancer they were looking at, it decreased it to a certain degree, okay? So, now let's talk about what that means. Okay, so the exercise boosts your immune system. Exercise is more than walking. They're like, oh, I exercise, I walk. No, I walk 5 miles. I'm like, okay. If you can still have a conversation with the person next to you when you're exercising, you are not exercising.
Thank you.
Okay? You should not be able to talk or have a conversation. You might need to say, I'm dying. You can maybe be able to say that. But if you can breathe and still have a conversation, that does not qualify as exercise as far as getting the benefits that we are talking about here, okay, the important ones. Are there benefits to walking? Absolutely. Is it going to increase your oxygen dramatically enough to have a major role in your immune system? Like a major role? Not as much. It's not as much. There's some. I mean, it's not like you're breathing some, but if you really want it, like that. So you would get more benefit out of doing 15 burpees, let's say, something like that, and being so out of breath from those 15 than 50 minutes of walking and never getting out of breath. Just you know.
So would deep breathing exercises benefit at all?
Great, yeah.
So that
I mean, it's
would-
similar. It's not the same, but
exercise,
it's in the same realm for sure.
Okay.
Which again, deep breathing exercise is like, I'm pretty sure that's never been shown to increase your risk of disease. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of benefits for
I just
that.
wondered how it compared to.
Similar, yeah, very important. Americans were really shallow breathers,
Right.
just in general. We
And
don't
when you
breathe like
get
we don't know how to
stressed, you
breathe.
shallow breathe.
Exactly. So, which means then you get the double whammy, right?
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
you're on track with that. Focusing on deep breathing,
Thank you.
great for your immune system. Toxins, okay? They are everywhere. We all know that. You are 3 times more likely to get cancer from toxins inside of your house than outside of your house. How about that? Cookware, personal care products, cleaning products, pesticides, right? Sugar, toxin. Now what's interesting is that, again, so remember your body has an incredible way to detoxify on its own. Main organ that does the detoxification is what? Good, yep, liver. We'll get it right here. you ever drank too much wine, it's probably a little tender in there, right? So that's where your liver is. Why does your liver get swollen and tender if you drink too much?
Like alcohol, you mean?
Yeah, alcohol, yeah.
It's inflamed.
It's trying to process and get rid of all the toxins out, right? So it's like blowing up and trying to go to work. Now there's 2 different steps of detoxification. The first one is sort of an elimination, so it brings in these nutrients, mainly antioxidants, vitamin E, vitamin C, carotenoids, milk thistle, glutathione, right, folic acid, B vitamins, to kind of strip away the toxins as much as possible. And the second one actually comes in, and these are all amino acids and other, you see sulfurated phytochemicals, right? Sulfur, right? Goes back to broccoli and cauliflower. And it actually will bind to those toxins and then render it even more weakened, so then it can get eliminated then either through your gallbladder, your poop, your urine, whatever, or your skin, okay? So that it goes through this. Now here's the point of this, is that as you can see, there's a lot of requirements that the body has in order to properly detoxify. So does detoxification start by consuming a specific product to detoxify? No, it starts by eating a healthy diet to make sure you're getting as absolutely much of this stuff as possible, okay? So you think about it, like if you're eating, if I use a dramatic example, if you're taking a super expensive detoxification product, but you're just eating like McDonald's and not getting the nutrients in, you see it's just gonna be like, it's like treading, detox, retox. You're never getting over it. So you gotta have the foundation of the right foods first, because you're gonna be getting a lot of this just from your foods. You should be getting the majority of it from foods. And then you come in with maybe, if you're like, oh, my goal is to really focus on detoxification, then okay, well then let's focus on some of these nutrients that are part of the process, right? That's how that works. But the main goal is you should be getting this, again, as much through what you're eating on a regular basis. How am I doing on time? Okay, I'm doing all right. I'm gonna try to finish up here in 15 minutes if I can. Autoimmunity. Remember, 80 million more people have autoimmune disease than cancer and heart disease right now in our country. 1 out of 8 women have an autoimmune disease. Most of this are women in here. 1 out of 8 of you have an autoimmune disease, right? And that number is going up like crazy, okay? So how this starts, this is supposed to be digestive cells right here. Very thin barrier. In fact, your digestive tract, think about this. It's only 1 layer of cells deep between you and the outside world. Think about it. When you go through here, there's completely, it's a loop that is like one end and out the other. It's like it's completely connected the whole way, right? Through that. But there's not much separating what's in your digestive tract with the rest of your body. So most of you probably heard of leaky gut. We talked about the things before that damage your gut: antibiotics, NSAIDs, right? Bad foods, sugars, toxins, grains, okay? Potentially dairy, potentially food sensitivities. So it creates holes, microscopic, but holes nonetheless, in these what's called gap junctions, okay? This the space in between the cells, they're called gap junctions. They get split apart, they get opened up, then you get leaky gut, and then you develop food intolerances because the proteins begin to leak out, your immune system begins to overreact. Then you develop immune abnormalities. Well, if your immune system becomes abnormal enough, then it becomes autoimmune. Now, autoimmune is definitely your body not doing the right thing at the right time. But this is the one example because the whole system has been disrupted abnormally. Because you've essentially taken things that should not belong where they do and put them there, okay? Like toxins and things like that. So autoimmunity disease begins in your gut. That's where it begins. All of them, okay? Now there's a bunch of them. Main ones I want to go over are Crohn's colitis, ulcerative colitis, digestive ones, okay? This is, again, your body literally attacking the digestive barriers. Now, what's really interesting is that there was a study that was done on well, at least just one that I could find, on chiropractic patients who had Crohn's disease. And there were 17 that they studied. For 12 of them, the only variable was adjustments. They had the same diet and they got adjusted. 12 out of 17 went into complete remission, which is insane. Because if you know anybody that suffered from Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, their life is ruled by the toilet. I mean, seriously, that is their most pressing thing always is they're at work, just in case, where's the nearest bathroom? Or they're at a grocery store or a new place they haven't been to, they're already searching for where the bathroom is just in case because they could be split second away from needing to be in there, right? Their life is run by that, not to mention potential blood and just absolute wasting away. And the only way they treat this medically is immunosuppressants, right? So like, well, and again, I'm not blaming their logic by it, just their mechanism is completely faultless. They're saying, well, your immune system's attacking itself, so let's just shut down your immune system. I mean, it's smart. Somebody that figured that out probably, had a good career, made a lot of money, you know what I mean? Probably died happy and whatever, but like, it's not addressing the cause of the problem. Is, well, why is my immune system attacking it? See what I'm saying? Not addressing the cause of the problem. So, again, this literally goes to the guts, right? And this is why these are two of the most prevalent autoimmune diseases, because again, autoimmune disease starts in the gut. Now, multiple sclerosis is going to be an autoimmune disease of the nervous system, right? So within your nerves, let's just pretend now this is a nerve cell. Around your nerve cell, it has something called the myelin sheath, okay? And the myelin sheath is basically a specialized form of fatty tissue. Think of it like as an insulator. So if you have like this cable right here, there's a reason why there's this rubber around it, is because it's to protect the inner workings of the wire, to make sure there's not shortages or whatever it is, or sparks or whatever. So when your nerve cells, okay, lose the myelin sheath, well, that's why then all of a sudden you get weakness, numbness and tingling, or other damage going on with that, because the myelin is degrading and breaking down. So then therefore now think of like, they're basically a little electrical shorts going on the inside of your body. That's how it happens. Gut issue. Vitamin D, they've now found major factor in multiple sclerosis, massive. In fact, a lot of alternative clinics that specialize in, they do IV vitamin D therapy.
Does the lack of?
Yes, way too low, yeah. So increasing it helps prevent, change, heal. Another study was done, and this is cool, this was done in Japan. And sometimes I think about these people doing studies, I'm like, how the heck did they think of it? So they took chickens in Japan, and they literally took a chicken's neck and they forced it in the opposite direction. Like they broke the dang chicken's neck, right? They didn't kill him, but they broke the neck and shoved it in the opposite direction. And what they found out is every chicken they did to that, the myelin sheath in their spinal cord literally began to rot within minutes. Okay? So remember the human neck? This is the head right here. It's supposed to have a forward-facing curvature like this right here. But what's the posture of everybody that they're doing all day long?
Opposite.
It's called, the technical term is called kyphosis. So in those chickens in Japan, what they did was they forced kyphosis into the chicken spines. And that's why their myelin sheath rot. I've never seen a person come into my office with multiple sclerosis that didn't have a massive loss of curvature. Not that everybody that has a massive loss of curvature is going to get multiple sclerosis or has it, but I've never not seen a person that did have that with that right there. So forward flexion of the neck, okay, like that, especially for sustained periods, good or bad for your nervous system? Bad, yes. Okay, so that doesn't make the need for adjustments. I don't know what will. And posture, good posture. Hashimoto's thyroiditis, okay? This is the most common autoimmune condition in America. The most common. It's estimated 20 million women have it, which is 1 out of 8. My math is correct on that. Now you're about to see me get even more ticked off when I talk about this right here. Hashimoto's thyroiditis is the autoimmune version of hypothyroidism. Now you can be have hypothyroidism and not have Hashimoto's, okay? The majority of people in the developing world that have thyroiditis or have hypothyroidism, it's because they have a lack of iodine, okay? And so they get those goiters in their neck, right? And their thyroid starts shutting down. That's in the developing world. But in America, in the developing world, especially America, this is what we have for thyroid issues. Now here's the part where it gets very annoying. When you go to a doctor and they test your blood work, we'll do another quiz. What do they when they test in your thyroid, what lab values are they testing? Remember what they're called? TSH and T4. Okay. So TH, thyroid stimulating hormone, that's the connection between your brain and your thyroid. T4 is actually the inactive form of thyroid. T4 converts to T3, which is the active. Okay? Now, if you have abnormal levels of TSH, in this case it would be too high for hypothyroidism, they're going to give you a diagnosis of hypothyroidism, and they're going to put you on the two most popular drugs are what?
Syndrome.
Very good. Or levothyroxine, which is the generic. Or if you go to a progressive medical doctor, then you'll get Armour thyroid, which is pig thyroid, right? Because somehow that's more natural to put a pig inside of you than a medication, I guess. Now, what's interesting is that if you have Hashimoto's, which 80% of people that have hypothyroidism in America have Hashimoto's, you're going to have other levels that are elevated, which include TPO and TPA, so peroxidase and the thyroid antibodies. But your doctor will never test for this, or rarely, I shouldn't say never, I'll say very rarely, if ever, test for this because it changes nothing as far as their treatment. So I mean, you have an autoimmune disease, and they're not going to do anything for you. But knowing what you know now about autoimmunity, okay, would you want to know if you got an autoimmune disease? Yeah, because then you can at least be taking proper action, right? I mean, shoot, hypothyroidism, just generic, that's so easy to fix. You can fix that with my eyes closed. Hashimoto's, bigger beast, because there's definitely a lot more factors that are involved with that. But you'll never get well. And the unfortunate thing is, if you have Hashimoto's as opposed to just hypothyroidism, these antibodies are going to continually attack, this is your thyroid gland here, it's going to continue to attack and destroy it, and until the next thing you know, your medication number has to keep going up and up and up and up and up and up and up. Next thing you know, then the oncologist just kind of throws his hands up in the air, and I guess we need to do what now? Cut it out. Well, I don't know about you, but if I got to the point where my thyroid needed to get cut out, I would have liked to have known 10 or 15 or 20 years ago why I got to that place and what I could have done about it differently.
Does Hashimoto's have symptoms that the other one doesn't? No? It's just something you see in the blood?
But what's interesting is that you can actually find these thyroid antibodies before the symptoms of hypothyroidism show up. So I mean, you can almost get like a pre-hypothyroidism diagnosis if these run. You want to know how much it costs to run these two?
$3.
Each. $7 to do that. I don't know about you, but I want to know that one. I'd be willing to pay $7 to at least get this done once a year to make sure my thyroid's not killing itself. Because your thyroid is like the center cog in the wheel of everything that makes your body run. Every single cell of your body, brain, nerve, heart, digestive, has receptors for the thyroid gland. Which is why if you have a bad thyroid, you don't feel well. I mean, among many other things, you just don't feel well from that. But major issues. So Hashimoto's, though, hypothyroidism can absolutely be healed and absolutely be reversed. I can't go into the protocol now because it's different for everybody. There's a lot of things that we can look at it. But I just wanted to show this because if you're going to develop an autoimmune condition, or you have one, you most likely have this one right here. And again, so first place where you're going to go to start fixing this is, guess where? You can guess the protocol. Where's the first place we're going to look at? For autoimmune, it's autoimmune, so where are we going to look? Gut, very good. And then of course, we got to look at the nerve system too, right? Always, because that controls everything. So finishing up here, just to show the importance of the nervous system. These are Masha and Dasha. I think they were in Russia. They were conjoined twins. I think that's the technical term, right? They shared every organ of the body except for they had separate nervous systems. They had their own spinal cord, and obviously they had their own brain right there in this case. But otherwise they shared the same lungs, same heart, same digestive tract, same reproductive organs. So with this study, these twins, this is where they completely disproved the germ theory, because they would obviously both be exposed to the same germs, but they didn't get sick at the same time.
Interesting.
So meaning that one's nervous system would have been, if the only thing that is separate from that, well then it would have to go back to the nervous system. has been the only differentiating factor. With that. They share everything else. Except for a different spinal cord and nerve branches and different brains. Yeah. But of course that didn't change anything. Look at he's resting his arm on their hump right there. That's pretty cool. What a life that must have been. I can't even imagine. So this also goes into the importance of the nervous system, right? And it's like there will come a time and a place, probably, I'm assuming, that you will be under the weather. And some of you have already been in this situation before. And you're gonna call up Julie and you'll be like, Julie, I can't come in for my appointment today. I'm sick. And what is Julie gonna say?
Come in.
Get your butt in here, right? Because guess what's the thing you can do immediately to boost your body and get it on the right track?
And it works.
Yes,
I
it
can
does.
attest
It
to
does
that,
work.
yes.
I mean, it does work. Every time I've been sick, Dr. B was adjusting me like 2 times a day. I'm like, I gotta get back on my feet faster than than as fast as possible there. But it runs and controls everything. It's a master control system. Everything is coordinated by that. If I clip the nerves that are going to your immune glands, your immune system is shot, okay? They do control it, a huge part there. So keep that power turned on, don't miss appointments. It's flu season coming up, which now you know is a bunch of hogwash, right? Because do the flu germs like go off to flu camp during the summertime? It's like, oh, they come back and like, oh, now we're gonna infect everybody. No, starting now, seriously, then I'm done, okay? What starts happening as summer winds down? Stress levels, what? Stress levels go up. As we start moving, especially as we start getting Halloween, more consumption of
Sugar.
garbage and crap. Halloween connects, because you're eating the leftovers all the way to Thanksgiving. Are you eating a super nutritious, healthy meal at Thanksgiving? Not drinking, not eating pumpkin pie with whipped cream and dessert and all that stuff, right? And then, now it's holiday season. You got your pumpkin spice lattes, your peppermint mochas, whatever it is. Holiday parties, right? Which is not like you're eating paleo, whole foods at your holiday parties, right? You know what I'm saying? Like it literally becomes a 3 or 4 month stretch of just hell for your body. Hell.
Plus my son.
Exactly, no, yeah, and the sun's already changing, right? So you're getting way less sun, less vitamin D. So flu season is only because we have created it. I don't go through flu season because I don't do any of that. I don't participate in any of that crap, okay? So just, again, the number one takeaway from here is this. Changing your perspective about where sickness comes from and know that you have pretty much near complete control over what's gonna happen to you. Fair enough? Amen? Cool. So, we are free to leave. If you have questions, come up and ask me.